Today, right now, we're gonna be talking about the difference between plagiarism and inspiration. I'm not understanding why some people's actions are not punishable. We're just having to get over it and people are just accepting it and they're like, it's not plagiarism. Like, I'm just like in my head, like I don't get it. So then I was like, I need to research this. So that's how you get your video today. I'm just genuinely sitting here wanting justice. Like, I want justice so bad, and people are just not receiving it. For the examples that I'm gonna be pulling through this video, some cases we're gonna be looking at, Game of Thrones versus Throne of Glass, Beverly versus Obsession, and then Red Queen versus Powerless. New location unlocked. I'm sorry it's very sterile looking right here with all the white. But laptop need it. So sorry, but also it makes the most sense. I'm sure some of you are just like, I've never watched your channel, I don't care. And that's totally fine. Valid. Now, in order to get into this and be like, oh, this is definitely 100%, 100,000% plagiarism, or this is inspiration, we do kind of need to understand what plagiarism is and what is punishable by law. So for starters, borrowing, not illegal, not usually illegal. It is when you take an author's specific expression or wording, or it does list unique ideas, but if that is the case, it does say like specific wording, specific expression, their creative element, like something they invented, or unique ideas or story placement. That really, really matters when it comes to actually being punished. Now, this is actually, I think, where stuff starts to matter and what actually becomes punishable, because if you notice, like really large writers, creators, filmmakers, if they have a copyright infringement, oh, you're getting sued, babe. You're getting sued and you're losing. Like Disney, they come after your neck, you're losing. Copyright infringement. Plagiarism becomes a legal issue when it violates a copyright given the original author grounds for federal lawsuit. For example, like J.K. Rowling, anyone writing like a wizard book, any kind of wizardry stuff, they genuinely have to make sure they don't violate her copyright. Copyright protects creative expression, including storylines, setting, character personalities, and visual designs in books and films. Trademarks safeguard the brand identity, such as names, titles, and symbols that consumers can immediately associate with a specific source. So in J.K. Rowling's instance, like that would be Harry Potter. Harry Potter is literally trademarked, and if you are, like on TikTok and stuff, how up-and-coming authors, indie authors, they'll be like, my book is just like Hunger Games or whatever, or like stuff like that. Like literally you cannot do that with J.K. Rowling's work. You cannot be like, this character resembles Harry Potter. You cannot use his name. Your ass will get sued. That is not allowed. This is a direct quote. The way that Lauren Roberts was literally like, this book is if the Red Queen and the Hunger Games had a child.
The easiest way to describe Powerless is if the Red Queen and the Hunger Games had a child that doesn't really resemble the parents as it gets older.
She could never do that with Harry Potter. And I know what you're thinking, like recently this year, so much Hermione fanfic was actually published. But because I read Rose and Chains, like I'm gonna use that as an example, I didn't read the other ones. Although it was previously a fanfic, it no longer like resembles the original source material. So unless you knew going into it that it was a fanfic, you're not gonna be like, this is Draco or this is Hermione. Like the characters, other than physical appearance, you can't plagiarize curly hair and freckles. You can't plagiarize white hair. Like you can't plagiarize that. You know what I mean? But like their identity is nowhere near them. Therefore, like all these Hermione fanfics that were recently published, like they're in the clear. And they did not use Harry Potter or Hogwarts, that world. They did not use that world, that story. They did not use it to advertise. They did not say like on the back of the book how they'll be like, this is for fans who enjoys such and such, they did not do that. I don't know. And like, you could, like, if you were a big reader of both, you could argue that some of the magic resembles it, but you can't have a patent on magic. You can't have a copyright on magic. Like, this is literally not like a React situation where she's like trying to ban reaction. What is not enough? What is not enough to be punishable? Ideas. Ideas are not enough. Copying a plot idea, not enough, not enough. Which honestly, fair, because so many books would literally, they would get that plagiarism strike right on it, like straight up. But it is this, it's specific wording. Inspiration, not a crime. Not a crime. Similarities, not a crime. Let's get into some examples. We're gonna start talking about Throne of Glass and Game of Thrones. So, Throne of Glass took so much inspiration from Game of Thrones. I've also seen some people say Lord of the Rings, but I'm not as well versed in there. Like, yeah, I've seen the movies, but like, I couldn't tell you what she took inspiration from unless it was just the world building. Maybe like the way that the characters look, maybe perhaps some of them. But other than that, I've got nothing for you on that. So we're using Game of Thrones as the example because there are some very obvious parallels and like inspiration pulling, and you can see, like, if you make that mental connection, you're like, yeah, like literally. Super mega blonde, heir to a lost, dead kingdom, failing kingdom. There's also a great prophecy that haunts like the narrative of both stories. But this Redditor says it best. They say, Alien is literally Daenerys, a lost princess who ends up in slavery and has to rebuild her power. Has a court that is deemed unpopular by those in her homeland. Distinct eye and hair color, has control over fire, and not to mention many, many titles the alien has. The queen who was promised. Daenerys is a possible contender to the prince that was promised. Like, come on. She says come one, but she means come on. Definitely when it comes to the physical side, when it comes to some character traits and some like outlines, you can see it. Like, it is there. But regardless of those similarities, Throne of Glass stands on its own, in my opinion. A lot of Alien's journey is to freedom. It is literally to freedom, learning how to use her powers and connect to that side of herself and to rightly get back to her throne. But the difference, like the main difference between her and Daenerys is that, I'm just gonna say Dany, I cannot be using these full titles, but the main difference between them is Alien would literally give up her life for her people and her kingdom. Dany, she's not making that same sacrifice. Homegirl is like, I was born to rule and rule I shall. Valid on both fronts, but like, Alien is just literally willing to give it all up if it means it will end. Like, her whole goal is to end the suffering, end the tyrannical rule, free the slaves. Like, that is her whole thing. And there's obviously that parallel there. Like, they both want to free all the slaves. They both want these things, but like, their personalities are different. Dany, she's less of a fighter. Like, she does not know how to fight really at all. And like, I'm sure she could defend herself with a knife. You know, this side's the pointy end. She has control over dragons. Therefore, she, in a sense, is a fire wielder, but like, she is not, like, doesn't have superpowers, so to say. She's fire resistant, fire retardant. Like, she's fire resistant, whatever, but like, they're not the same in that way. Like, Alien literally has superpowers and like has to learn how to wield them. It's like a whole Avatar journey with that. Another thing is like, Dany's more of a wordsmith in the sense that she's more of a typical true leader, in the sense that she has like a council that she consults and trusts their opinion, is like actively gaining followers like throughout the whole thing. Whereas Alien, like, she doesn't necessarily gain followers in a normal sense. She almost is just doing things out of kindness. Like, the whole book is basically just like acts of kindness and how that comes back and like to you in a good way, and like how small acts of kindness can like literally change the world. Like, I think that's a really big message in the book. And so she does a lot of things expecting nothing in return, and she often gets nothing in return until later on. Like, she's not gaining followers on her across journey trip and like all these little mini battles and instances they have. Like, she's not just like gaining followers like that. And I think the biggest difference between them is that she holds her cards so close to her chest, and at the end of the day, she's not really trusting anyone or telling anyone anything, including the audience. Like, the reader will not even know what is going on in her head because that's how closely she's holding her cards to her chest. So, like, although in theory these women are so similar, they have similar backgrounds, whatever, they are so different. This is clear inspiration, whereas we literally have proven plagiarism with Beverly VS Obsessed. There are paragraph by paragraph, word by word copying in these two books. Beverly being the plagiarizer and Obsessed being the victim here. This book was punished, like so much so, rightfully so, to the point where this book is no longer being sold at all. It is taken down from all platforms. However, you can still rate it on Goodreads, and it is still, if you go to a bunch of the people who did rate this book, it's still on their profile. I found that to be a little interesting. I would think it would be banned everywhere because people can still find it. You know what I mean? Now, let's read some of these word for word copying cases. I'll also put it up here so you can read it, but I'm gonna read for you. Oh my God, this is crazy. I'm gonna read for you the copy. I have to go, I told Tiffany, cutting her off mid-sentence. But can we talk about, I hung up and stared as my father kept the door open long enough for the boy to hesitate, to glance up at the threshold as if it were an invisible wall and he wasn't sure he was allowed to cross. Moving on. I have to go. I cut Sydney off. Name change. But we have to talk about kissing Jacob. I hung up and stared, wide-eyed and confused, as Daddy opened the door, stepped in, keeping the door wide open, and let the boy inside. And then instead of Jenna, it's Jean, he called out. Like, you see what I mean? They're like just inserting words and changing it. That is like almost word for word copying. It's so similar. If you were to write a paper and you were to take something you found online and insert it like this, your paper would be flagged for plagiarism because it would be like 70% not your words. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, like, imagine this. Like, it's so obvious that you're almost like, you can almost like accidentally read it the same. Like when I was reading Jenna and it was Jean, like almost the same thing. Father and dad, they're the same, they have the same meaning. It is the same. That is 100% plagiarism, and this book was punished for that. Now let's talk about justice that is like seemingly not going to be served. Although, to me, there is sufficient evidence, although this is opinion-based because nothing has been done about this. So, I mean, it is my opinion. But I will read you some compelling evidence. The first thing that I would open a case up with in terms for the argument of Powerless by Lauren Roberts and Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, the first thing that the opening court document piece that would be in my case folder would be people started harassing Victoria Aveyard, whose book came out in 2015. They started harassing her, giving her 1 star on Goodreads, saying that she plagiarized Powerless when Powerless came out in 2023. That is a case right there, in my opinion. That is enough to win a plagiarism case. When people start going to an author and saying that they plagiarized someone, and then it turns out they wrote their book years before. What do you mean? Because then it's so obvious. Because if you thought to yourself, this book was so much like that book and it was clearly plagiarizing someone, then you turn around and realize the whole, like, it literally couldn't have been plagiarized and like Lauren would have been like 12 or something. Like who plagiarized who? You know what I mean? Like, already in of itself, the way that this probably tanked her reviews. This is affecting her book. This is affecting her. You have a plagiarism case, in my opinion, because people are literally coming to you saying that you plagiarized when there's no way. That's a case to me. It's affecting reviews. It's affecting sales. People saying that they read Powerless and there's no reason to ever read Red Queen or recommend it or think about it, and because they already read the same book. That's crazy. There are literally commenters saying stuff like that. That's insane. We're gonna talk about the parallels between the two. These are just straight facts right here. This is not me adding my opinion in. These are just what the books are and aren't in comparison. So when it comes to the social structure, both worlds feature a society that is divided by magical difference and a non-magical difference. And in Powerless, it's called the elites and the ordinaries. And in Red Queen, it is called the silvers and the reds. And in Red Queen, the silver and the red, those are blood types. So if you bleed silver, powerful. If you don't, you're boo lame, ordinary. We hate regular people. Boo. And in both, like obviously the ordinaries, the non-magical having people, they are the oppressed. Both main characters, Peyton and Mare, they are both like ordinary in their books. They both don't have powers, are ordinary, are plain, and they're both living in poverty. They both have to pretend like they have special abilities to survive in royal court. Crazy. They're both thieves and they both steal from a prince. Both books feature a competition. Both books take place in the palace where the main character must participate and must pretend basically to have powers, to not be a regular, to pretend like they don't have red blood, whatever. They have to pretend to be something that they're not, keep up the ruse. I'm just like you guys. They both have to do that. Now let's get into like specific scenes where it gets kind of crazy. Whatever. Like a lot of books, you can see the bone structure of another book, and it's still not be plagiarism. You can have that. When it starts to get to specific scenes, it's like, girl, you're building the case for me. Now, for specific scenes, they both contain a ball scene where both main characters attend a ball and their true identity is almost exposed. Both share a love triangle with two brothers where it's obvious like one brother is the main dude, you know what I mean? Both have half siblings, so the brothers are half siblings in both books. And in both, one's like gonna be in line for the throne, gonna be the next king, and the other one's doing whatever. Both get cozy with the prince to manipulate him for a cause, and both main characters become involved with a rival organization. It gets to a point. Like, I feel like I'm going insane. I feel like that constitutes as a unique idea. I feel like it falls under that clause. I feel like this is more than a bone structure. Instead of, you know, resembling a human skeleton that could be anyone, resembles a book, it resembles a book. I feel like the flesh is on the body. And flesh is on the body, and in my opinion, these are fraternal twins. Like, I don't know, like, this is crazy to me. This is so crazy. I feel like Lauren almost used an insert here formula and like changed it up just a little bit. Maybe she restructured it. She did restructure it. She put some events earlier, some events later, but it's still the same events happening. The reason I wanted to make this video is I actually saw a video of somebody defending Powerless and saying that people just don't understand writing and stuff like that. And this is obviously just a result of inspiration, and people do it all the time, and it resembles another book so heavily. And first of all, just because people do it all the time does not mean it's okay. Plagiarism is never okay. Okay? But also, like, I feel like that goes without saying, but obviously it doesn't. That's never okay. Never okay. And inspiration more so goes with Throne of Glass, which in my opinion, original story. And it just took some inspiration. You can see it. You can see the inspiration, but also it stands by itself. It fully stands on its own. And she actually completed her series, unlike someone. Arguably, like, that is inspiration. That is what inspiration looks like. This is not inspiration. It may not necessarily fall under the guidelines of plagiarism, but it's somewhere in that in-between zone where, in my opinion, there's a case to be made here. However, if there's not a case for this, there should be a case that this book is genuinely affecting Red Queen's sales, rating, affecting like the credibility. I don't know, like affecting the author's credibility or something. Like there should be something there for that. Even if she can't say that the book is plagiarism, that book is affecting her life, and her 2 pinned videos on her TikTok are having to be like, hey, my book was written first, stop saying I plagiarized. You know what I mean? Like, I'm begging you, 5 seconds of research, like just look it up. It's affecting her life. I feel like there's a case to be made there about that. I don't know. I don't know about the rest of the series. I only read the first book for Powerless, but definitely for the first book, there is an argument to be made here that this is a little bit more than inspiration, and if we need to have a new in-between ground, then we need to have it. Because I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it's okay for writers to keep getting away with this, like the pulling just the most high school move of swapping paragraphs around, taking a word out, putting another word in. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. If it's plagiarizing in high school, what is it now? Getting published and getting a TV deal. Oh my God. Literally, like, my heart goes out to Victoria Aveyard, obviously, in this situation. I think it's going to be absolutely horrible. If this TV series continues to move forward, it has been greenlit. There's been a few interviews just being like, not much I can say. I hope to have a lot of, like, involvement in the TV show and, like, casting, whatever. But not a lot of progress has been made on this film or TV show, whatever. It's not a lot of progress has been made. Who knows if and when it'll come out. I mean, so many other fantasy, romantasy authors right now are having a big TV boom. None of their shit has release dates either, and theirs were greenlit way before. So hopefully it doesn't continue, but like, my heart goes out to her having to see her freaking book be on TV, you know, and know what's gonna happen. Crazy. And get 0 credit, 0 writing credits on that. Anyway, I will be interested to see if Lauren writes anything outside of this series. She's written quite a few books aside from just like the main ones. Like, she has a couple novellas that have come out. I'll be interested to see if she writes outside of this book series any more, especially with all the allegations of the other books that she has potentially taken stuff from, you know, The Hunger Games, Dance of Thieves. There's some comparisons being made from there. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see with everyone watching her, because at the end of the day, like at the end of the day, so far none of her work is entirely original. And so it's like, do you have any ideas of your own?